Okay, so today we're jumping into a story that honestly, it reads more like a medical thriller than anything else. It's all laid out in this self-published book, and it follows one family's incredible multi-generational quest to fight cancer with a very, very specific type of algae. Let's get into it.
And this is where it all kicks off. I mean, just imagine hearing those words. Treatment was hopeless. And then, out of nowhere, a potential miracle shows up from the most unexpected person. This single sentence is the hook for the entire story, this incredible battle against impossible odds.
All right, so let's wind the clock all the way back to the beginning. We're going to look at the one event that started this family's decades-long obsession. It all centers on the author's grandfather, a man named Yong-pu.
Now, just look at this timeline for a second. In 1968, he's told he's terminal. It's over. But then he starts taking this homemade, fresh algae liquid every single day. And get this, just 8 months later, his tests come back clean, no cancer cells. He goes on to live another 26 healthy years. I mean, it's no wonder this story became a family legend.
But, and this is a big but. Here's where the story takes a really frustrating turn. What should have been this amazing family cure just wasn't. It became this huge unsolved mystery. This is the question that just haunts the entire book. The grandfather has this miracle recovery, but then over the years, more than 10 of his relatives also get cancer. They all try to use algae, but for them, it doesn't work. Not once. So why? Why did it work so unbelievably well that one time and then nothing? So the family started digging, and their investigation really boiled down to this. On the left, you've got what the grandfather did, a fresh liquid from a unique algae that he grew himself and drank right away. And on the right, what everyone else used, the best commercially available algae products, chlorella, which were all dried out powders and pills. The form, they realized, was completely different. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. A biologist they talked to in Japan put it so bluntly, he basically said that taking commercial algae powder is like trying to make tea with leaves that have already been used. The good stuff, the real function, was just gone. That's when they started to think the processing was the real problem.
So this realization, this mystery, it sent the family on this incredible scientific journey that lasted for decades. They weren't just trying to find a cure anymore. They were trying to rediscover a secret that had been lost.
And according to the book, here's what their research uncovered. They identified 3 huge problems with commercial production. First, the way it's grown, with this high-speed stirring, actually messes with the cells. Second, the heat they use to dry it out, anything over 50 degrees Celsius, basically cooks away all the important stuff. And finally, just turning it into a powder in the first place seems to kill whatever potency is left. The entire industrial process was the enemy. So what do? Well, after all that work, they invented their own solution. They developed and actually patented a whole new method for creating a fresh algae liquid, one specifically designed to be just like the grandfather's original, preserving all those properties that big industry was destroying.
Okay, but a great theory and a fancy patent, that's one thing. The family knew they needed to back it all up with actual proof. So, let's take a look at the evidence they lay out in the book.
This is pretty powerful stuff. It's from a study they cite that was done on mice with breast cancer. You've got the control group, big tumors. You've got the group that got the commercial algae powder, also big tumors. But then, look at that third bar. That's the group that got the family's fresh liquid. The tumors are just tiny in comparison. It's a really, really striking visual.
And it wasn't just mice. They also point to human results. Now, the book claims that in a group of 386 cancer patients who used their liquid, the 5-year healthy survival rate was a mind-blowing 89.6%. That number is really the cornerstone of their whole argument.
And to really drive the point home, the book argues that the science behind this has been out there for a while. They point to presentations of major conferences, like the American Association for Cancer Research. They bring up academic studies from places like the National Taiwan Ocean University, and even research on colon cancer from Kansas State. What they're trying to say is, hey, we're not making this up out of thin air. We're building on a foundation of real science. But, data and studies can feel a little cold. So the book then shifts gears and focuses on the human stories, on the real people who they claim were helped by this fresh algae liquid. And these stories are pretty incredible.
A 30-year-old woman with thyroid cancer who apparently recovers while pregnant, and both she and the baby are fine. A 48-year-old with stage 4 lung cancer that had spread to her brain, who they claim made a full recovery. Another guy with a similar diagnosis whose awful headaches and dizziness were gone in a single week. These personal stories are presented as the real-world proof.
So, how does this stuff supposedly work? What's the mechanism here? Well, the book lays out this big, unifying theory about what cancer is at its core and how their algae is designed to fight it.
And their whole theory is built on this scientific idea called the Warburg effect. The simple version is this: cancer cells are metabolically broken. They're absolute sugar fiends. They gobble up huge amounts of glucose to fuel their crazy, out-of-control growth.
And that leads to the book's main point. Cancer isn't just a disease of bad genes, it's a disease of bad metabolism. And if cancer's favorite food is sugar, then step one is to just stop feeding it. And suddenly the grandfather's story clicks into place. Remember how he cut out rice and noodles? He was basically cutting off his cancer's fuel supply without even knowing it.
But just starving the cancer is only the beginning. The book claims their fresh algae liquid does 7 key things. The first few are all about cleaning house and playing defense. It helps detox the body from heavy metals and toxins. It protects your cells from things like air pollution, and it helps repair damaged DNA.
The other functions are all about going on the attack and rebuilding. The algae is said to wake up your immune system, your T cells and natural killer cells, to go hunt down the bad guys. It helps repair your mitochondria, which are like the broken power plants in your cells. It activates stem cells to repair tissue. And finally, it helps get your whole metabolism back on track. It's presented as this total, all-in-one approach to a systemic problem.
So, when you step back and look at this whole incredible journey, from one man's miracle recovery to this patented liquid, you're left with a really big question that the source material wants you to think about. It presents this compelling story, and it makes you wonder about the bigger picture. What is the connection between the food we eat every day, the health of our cells at a microscopic level, and the explosion of chronic diseases we see all around us? It definitely leaves you with a lot to think about.